Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 181 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where today we're going up to the high seat on the hill to see something that will guide us in our perplexities.
Hey, did you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that? I think I hear.
Huh?
I think I hear
Is that?
Boromir's horn. That's
Yes.
Boromir's horn. He needs help.
I think it is.
You know what? We'll go check on him in a minute. I'm sure
right.
he'll be fine.
Yeah, we got other things to do.
We do. Sorry, Boromir. Hang on just a minute longer.
Yeah.
Folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room.
That's terrible.
Too soon?
No.
Since it hasn't actually happened yet?
That's a good point. Oh,
Well,
that's wonderfully bad.
Anyway, folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, who brings most of his perplexities on himself, Alan Sisto.
Oh, man, ain't that the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But at least when I don't, Sean, I can count on you to help make me more perplexed.
That's what I'm here for.
Well, folks, today we're going to hold off our return to the text for one more week.
Sorry, Boromir.
Yeah, apparently to insult each other and let Boromir die. But we're going to hold off that return to the text, as we do at the start of each book, to look back at the Lord of the Rings so far and review some of the major themes that we saw last season.
That's right. And then we'll go ahead and take a look ahead to Book 3. And we'll talk about some of the major themes and the great moments we anticipate seeing this season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And we have a lot of fun along the way. So we're really glad you've joined us.
We are. We hope you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we jump into the Lord of the Rings today, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been up to during our hiatus. It's been a really busy time, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah, hiatus is kind of a misnomer. There's been a lot going on at the Prancing Pony Podcast, even though we haven't been in the booth recording. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
So let's see. Our production hiatus, that's like when we stopped recording.
Yeah.
That actually started back in June, which our listeners out there may not realize because we still had episodes coming out for a few weeks after that.
Several.
But it was back in June that we migrated to our new podcast host.
That's right. Well, we began to, because the actual move was July 1st. And we'd spent several weeks before that doing all the legwork necessary to make that move happen.
Right.
You know, I'd gone back and marked episodes for ad placement, which, I mean, let's be honest, we never thought we would do that. So sometimes there was only a half a second to stick it in. Sorry about that, folks. It'll be a lot better starting with season 5.
It's going to be a lot smoother from here on out.
Much smoother. Of course, then we had to upload the entire catalog to the new server. We had to update every link that you can possibly think of. But
oh, man, all over the website. And
all over the website.
Places online like Reddit.
Yeah.
It was kind of a fun trip down memory lane, I have to say.
A little bit, yeah. That is true. Listening to the old episodes to find ad spots was a lot of fun.
I bet, yeah. And even just like going and, you know, I didn't even do any of that stuff. I was mostly working on the links and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, just remembering like, oh, yeah, we talked about this and we need to get back into, you know, whatever theme. So I'm kind of hoping that exercise will give us some new stuff for this coming season. I know it's hard to believe that with, you know, going back to the Silmarillion and the Hobbit, but I don't know. I think we'll get some cool ideas out of there.
I think we will. And for that reason and so many others, it was all worth it because that move has given us some resources, maybe not quite as many as we'd hoped, but enough to bring on a team of people around us. Now, the show itself is still me and Sean. We're always going to be the ones who write and record the show. But behind us, we've got some amazing team members with social media manager Casey Hilsey, website guru Phil Dean, audio engineer Jordan Rennells.
We've got a new mailbag assistant, Becca Davis, so Barliman will finally stop losing the mail.
Not to mention a new Patreon community coordinator, Katie McKenna, and several research assistants, Tanya Plashkova, Marilyn R. Pakila, and Thomas Karat, to help us find all the good stuff that we can bring to you.
And it's been so exciting to be working with them. They've all been jumping right in already, helping Alan and me focus on what we do best, which is reading the book and deciding what we want to say about it. And then saying it.
Well, of course.
Because we're good at, talking. I don't know. We're good at stuff, I guess.
Well, some of us are anyway.
That's not what you hired me for. Come on.
No, that's true. That.
No, I mean, really, it's been great working with all of them. We've already done so much. I mean, I've got to give a shout out to the work that Phil has done on the website. It looks fantastic. I mean, it's still the PPP website. You'll recognize it, but it's so much cleaner. It's so much better organized.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool. I'm really happy
much
with
easier
the
to
work he's
use.
done.
You can really access the content more readily. It's great.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get better.
Yeah. And speaking of content, man, Casey's been pushing out so much stuff on social media, just getting so
amazing.
much engagement, and
yeah,
it's been so fun to see our community come out. I mean, I don't know that we've ever had this level of engagement from our community. We really haven't. Certainly not during a hiatus.
And that's all thanks to Casey's hard work. I mean, you and I can get on, and we do, and we engage with our audience with likes and reactions and with replies and comments. But it was really hard for us to find the time to generate content, to create new posts 3 or 4 times a week on top of what we've been doing.
Right.
And Casey has just been able to take that to the next level. It's been great.
Absolutely. It's been awesome.
Yeah. And of course, we've also started working with Megan Collins on some new designs for our Teespring store. You've seen her artwork on our page before, but now if you've ever wanted your own Feanor pinata, you can finally have one in t-shirt form.
Which really is the best way to have it, because a real Feanor pinata, you hit it, you break it, you don't have it anymore. But it's
that's exactly right. Yeah.
That's the pinata that keeps on pinataing. And
that's great stuff.
Mine has come in. I haven't worn it yet, though.
Mine is coming. I just got the shipping notice.
Awesome. Well, so it sounds like we've both been very busy with the podcast during our break, and I'm making air quotes when I say that.
You're not kidding.
What else has been going on, man? I mean, I feel like we've talked a lot, but I feel like we're talking so much about the stuff we're doing with the podcast, which is fine. But I don't know. I feel like we haven't caught up too much on like personal stuff. What have you been up to over the summer?
I agree. No, I know. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Yeah, we really haven't, because we've been so busy. I mean, I know folks won't believe that. The hiatus has been insanely busy, busier than a season.
Yeah.
I did a Facebook Live kind of explaining some of the stuff we were doing, and I think people were a little blown away by the amount of work we were doing during our quote-unquote break.
Yeah.
Now, as for what I've been doing personally, for family reasons, I had a lot more time to myself during our break, having to do with the family being out with in-laws for a while during COVID. Managed to watch some TV shows. I finished off the final season of The Last Kingdom, which I'd watched up to that point. I watched all of the BBC Sherlock, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. I had never, ever seen it. I'd only seen clips. I kept thinking, I'll get around to watching it. Yeah.
Oh, man, that was a great show.
It was phenomenal. I think I must have binged that in like less than a week. I watched the heck out of that one. And then I found one that I really dug into. It was called Turn. It was a show about spies during the time of the American Revolution. I guess it's based on a book called George Washington's Spies or something like that.
I remember hearing about this show. I never did see it, but I remember hearing about it.
I enjoyed that one immensely. I love a good historical story. So for me, fictional or not, I mean, whether it's accurate or not, obviously the more accurate, the better. But I just love a good story based in a time in history. So that was a lot of fun. And then I also spent a lot of time on my bike. You know that I lost some weight late last year. And that enabled me to finally get back on my bike without dying on the hills that my town is built on.
Nice.
So that was fun. But I got to say, around June, the big move was getting an indoor trainer and getting the bike inside. I've been riding on an app called Zwift, and it has just been a ton of fun. I've been probably putting in 125 miles a week now for a little while.
Wow.
So it's been great. Yeah, I've been riding a ton. So, and fitness just in general. I've been using the TRX system since the gyms are closed. So I use that a few times a week and just trying to stay in shape and not gain the COVID-19 or the quarantine.
Yeah.
So that's been good.
I think I've gained the quarantine for sure. I've been needing to get back on the...
I'm telling you, I've totally plateaued no matter how much work I'm doing. I could burn 4,000 calories in a day and I'm still staying the same way.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
Well, look, man, I've seen your pictures and it's good work. So keep it up.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And then, of course, once the kids move back home, I got to say, I've enjoyed that. I've spent a lot of time catching up with them, reading books, playing games, stuff like that. But what about you? What have you been up to?
Man, I have not been exercising. I've been a complete slug.
That's all right.
I did the other COVID thing and I started baking.
Oh, yeah.
I've been baking for years, but I did the
Still waiting for that loaf of sourdough, man.
I know. It's been a while since. So I've got the starter now, but actually making a loaf of bread is sort of an all-day thing.
That's true. Yeah.
And I just haven't really had the time to do it, so I just haven't made it in a while.
Fair enough.
Plus, when you make it, you have to eat it, and that's been the other thing.
It would never make it to the mailbox, I see. That's what you're telling me.
I did dig the elliptical out of the garage, and I got on it a couple of times. And then
that is where I started. When I started my whole weight loss thing in September of last year, almost a year ago now, when I was 258 pounds.
Oh,
I started on the elliptical because I knew that I couldn't take running. And my city really is built on hills. So the bike was right out. And the elliptical was a perfect way to get started. I think in the first 3 months, I shed like 20 pounds. It was almost all due to the elliptical.
That's amazing, man.
Wow. It's because I do it for like 65 minutes at a time. That was how it worked.
Wow. No, I'm impressed. That's awesome. It's actually inspiring.
Well, good. Go do it.
I will.
All right. So what else have you been up to?
What have I been doing? I don't know, we've watched a little bit of TV here and there. Nothing that I'm really remembering. I mean, I've been doing a lot of reading.
Good. Yes.
I've actually had the kids at home.
Yeah.
And they've been home all the time. And during the summer, they really got on a bad sleep schedule. Like they were going to bed at like after midnight every night.
And my goodness. The kids are so young.
Yeah.
After midnight. Whoa.
And they were waking up late the next day. But
well, yeah, like 10 a.m. probably. Yeah.
But what am I going to do? There's really not a compelling reason to wake them up, except that I feel like they should be up earlier. But it ended up kind of backfiring on us because basically my wife and I had no time to ourselves. Like we couldn't really watch many movies. We couldn't really watch a whole lot of TV together because
they were up.
Anytime we tried to put on like a scary movie or something, because we love horror movies.
Oh, right.
We try to put them on, and the kids would just like come waltzing out of their rooms. What you doing, Daddy?
It's my gosh, that's terrible.
No, just pause. Turn off the TV.
Turn off the TV. Like, don't pause because you might have somebody with like their guts hanging all over the screen.
It's terrible.
Why is that man being disemboweled, Daddy?
Oh man. Yeah. So anyway, not a whole lot of TV or movies. Like for me, I went out and bought the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition books.
Oh, dude, we're going to have to play.
It has been
a decade or more. Yeah.
20 plus years since I played.
It's got to be at least 15 or 20. Yeah.
I've been wanting to get back into it for a long time. My kids are actually interested. They are super young, and they're too young for now, but they are interested in it, and they like looking at the pictures. So I picked up the player's
handbook. Nothing like a beholder to drag a kid into D&D.
My kids love beholders, man.
Of course they do. They think they're
big
so cool furry things with little, but they're not. They'll kill you. They'll tear you up, man.
They're super cool looking, and my son is really enamored of them.
Yeah.
Really just been spending a lot of time with the kids. I mean, we've played a lot of video games with the kids, playing a lot of Nintendo Switch and PS4.
Yeah.
We have watched a lot of movies with the kids, like a lot of 80s classics.
Oh, yeah.
Back to the Future trilogy. My kids loved Back to the Future.
I was hoping that's what you'd mention. Love those. Those are so fun.
Indiana Jones. My kids love Temple of Doom.
Oh, really? Temple of Doom? Like, really? I thought you would have better taste than that.
That is A, like the creepiest one, and it's also B, the worst one.
Well, I was going to say,
from the fourth one, which doesn't really exist.
Well, which isn't even an Indiana Jones movie. We don't even speak of that.
We didn't watch that one. We just watched the Indiana Jones trilogy. Let's get that out there.
Yeah.
I think we spent most of the summer just like kind of catching the kids up on some of our favorite movies. This is relevant to your interests.
Okay.
After warming them up, we finally decided to show them Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
Oh, wow. I'm not there yet, but pretty close. I think my son is. I think he's ready.
So you know your kids best, and I'm going to put that out there for other parents who are asking themselves the same question. I was actually strangely conflicted about it.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't want my 6-year-old to watch them. She's not ready, so I don't know when we will watch them. I think we'll have to wait just for that reason alone. But and I want to read it too.
That's the other thing. See, I was conflicted because part of me always wished that my kids could discover the story the way I did through the books.
Yeah, books first. Yeah,
but
it's unlikely.
It is unlikely these days, isn't it? And
and
it kind of seemed like the time was right because I started thinking to myself, my kids are getting older. They're going to be around other kids who have seen these movies.
Oh, of course.
And if they know anything about, my kid's dad, like, oh, your daddy's a big Lord of the Rings fan. Have you seen the movies? They start hearing about it from other kids. Like, I don't want that to happen.
No.
I want to help them discover it. I want to share it with them. And we had shared so many other movies that aren't as important to me that I finally decided, you know what, let's do it. And my wife was fully on board because she's just generally a bigger movie fan than she is, like a fantasy book fan. So, we talked about it. I talked to some friends in the Tolkien community about it, some friends who had shown it to their kids and some who had not.
Yep.
And decided the time was right. And
I think so.
I got to say, it's not going to be right for every kid. So,
no.
Like Alan, I know, your daughter's not quite ready for it. Mine was. My kids are okay with scary stuff. I know some kids are not okay with scary stuff. some kids are not okay with long movies. My kids were totally fine sitting through.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing. I don't think they will be, but we'll see. I mean, it's going to have to be my son only at this point, so we'll probably have to watch it.
I imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah, Ellie's not going to be ready for a while.
I'm sure. Yeah. The disc change did help. I think even with your son, I think the disc change helps because
I hadn't even thought of that because I ripped the Blu-rays. I mean, I own them. This isn't copyright violation here. I own the Blu-rays, so I rip them and have them as single files.
Okay, yeah.
So that way I don't have to do the disc change. But maybe it's a good idea if I do.
Or just pause at that point, because what was cool about it was because you could pause there. Okay, everybody go to the bathroom. Does anybody want some popcorn?
Get something to eat, right?
Just breaks it up a little bit. And yeah, my kids loved it. I mean, they're still asking me questions about it.
Oh, of course. I'm excited about that. I want my son to ask me questions.
Yeah,
about it.
exactly.
That's gonna be great.
And some stuff went over their heads, but that's the cool thing about it that I realized. And I'm going to put this out there as a PSA for other parents who are thinking about showing the movies to their kids.
On a very special Prancing Pony podcast.
That's right. This is why we do this, folks, just to give you a little bit of parental advice. Don't quote me on that.
Seriously, we are not the ones to follow for family guidance.
But I have to say, some stuff went over their heads and some stuff they absorbed. And the cool thing about the fact that some stuff went over their heads is that someday in a couple of years, maybe we'll watch the movies again. Maybe we'll read the books together, and then it's going to be new to them again.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of Lord of the Rings, is that as you grow up, the story changes.
Yes, it does.
I think it was absolutely the right choice for us, and I would totally recommend it to anybody. Again, you know your kids. You know if your kids can handle it, but if they are, do it. It was a lot of fun.
I bet. Speaking of movies, the Dune trailer dropped recently.
Yes.
So those of you listening to this, we're recording this a couple weeks ahead of time, and the Dune trailer just dropped a few days ago. Sean, tell me what you thought. 30 seconds.
I'm excited. I'm totally excited. I'm super excited that I think this is going to be the first time a movie has been done by a director who really understands the Dune story.
Who gets it.
Yeah. I mean, David Lynch had a really cool eye for the Dune universe, but he didn't. There's some things that I didn't think he got right about the story. And then there was that sci-fi miniseries that they did about, 20 years ago now, which I thought did all right by the story. Was it that long ago? Wow. It was. I know. Don't you feel old?
Sean, I always feel old. Thanks a lot.
Well, not now that you're, biking 125 miles a week.
I'm aging backwards. The curious case of Alan Sisto. Right?
Yeah, exactly. The sci-fi miniseries, I actually have always liked that one, but the production value, sci-fi didn't have a ton of budget,
No. At least not then. Yeah.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of The Expanse, which started out as a sci-fi show and is actually phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they clearly had a budget. And then, of course, now they've got a monstrous budget under Amazon.
I think, Frank Herbert's Dune back in 2000 or whatever year that was, I think it probably helped pave the way for that.
Yeah, probably.
Things like Battlestar Galactica and stuff like that.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's a good point. But you're excited.
I'm super stoked about the movie. The trailer was great.
It was. My first thought was, hey, a movie in which giant worms actually belong.
So we don't have to have Gandalf come out and say, Shai Hulud. So one more thing about that, and then we'll get on with, we'll end this digression.
What's in the box?
Just a little gift. Pain.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of pain for you, Paul.
Just pain.
My wife texted me because the song that's in the trailer is a cover of a Pink Floyd song.
Oh, I thought I recognized it.
My wife texted me and says, I think they made this trailer for you.
I think they did, man. I think they did.
So it was fun. I had so many people text me that day, have you seen the trailer yet? Wait till you hear
the
song, dude.
I knew you were swamped. Yeah. I didn't even bother.
So I'm super stoked. If anybody wants to talk about it, come find me on Twitter or Facebook. Send me a message.
Yeah, you won't be able to shut up. It's probably true. Yeah. But there was one other thing this summer that we both did. What's that?
Oh man, the moots.
The moots.
We did some moots, didn't we?
We did some mooting. Mythmoot 7 happened online in August, and we got to hear and participate in online webinars with folks like Amy Sturgis, John DeBartolo of the Lonely Mountain Band, Corey Olson himself, of course, and the great and incomparable Tom Shippey and Verlin Flieger.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Oh, man, you're not kidding.
I heard there was a trivia contest, too.
I hear there was.
Yeah.
And I hear that the winners may be people you're listening to right now.
I think that might be true. Yeah. We did. Yes,
we did.
Alan and I fielded a team for the trivia night.
Who else was with us? Let's see. Tom Hillman, Katie McKenna.
Tom, Katie, and Chad in Texas.
Chad. Yep, Chad in Texas.
Yep. And they were all on our team.
That was an amazing team. Yeah.
We killed, man. We
did.
And we were up against some good competition, too. But yeah, that was super fun.
That was so much fun. Yeah, I know.
And then just a couple of weeks ago, the Tolkien Society held Oxonmoot online.
That's right.
Now, that was actually my first chance getting to go to Oxonmoot. And, although none of us were there in person, it was still a great event. No. We had some keynote talks from Dimitra Fimi, Wayne Hammond, and Christina Scull, and some really cool panels. And some of those were even moderated by friends of the show, like Luke Shelton and Sean Gunner, who's the chair of the Tolkien Society.
That's right. And by the way, we had a number of those people join us on the show 2 weeks ago for episode 179. So if you haven't heard that yet, go listen to it.
But we recorded that episode before Oxonmoot happened, so why don't we talk about it a little bit and a little bit more about Mythmoot and actually talk about some of our experiences. We always like to report back from these events when we go to them and share a little bit of the fun we had with our listeners. And even though we didn't physically go anywhere to attend Moots this year, I think it'll still be worth talking about, don't you think?
I think so. I mean, it is sad that we didn't get to go anywhere actually to do this other than our offices. But yeah, we did record that episode before the conference took place, and I think we should talk a little bit about it. So what we'll do is we'll ask each other some questions kind of about our moot experiences, and we'll take it from there. So fire away. What do you got for me?
Let's see. We just wrapped up Oxonmoot as of recording this. So how many moots does that make for you now that you've been to?
Well, let's see. I think the first moot I ever went to was Mythmoot 5, then Oxonmoot, then Texmoot, then Tolkien 2019, then LA Moot, and then online Mythmoot and online Oxonmoot. So I guess that's 7 now.
That makes sense because it's 6 for me because it was like you. My first one was Mythmoot. That was 2018. That was when we did that live show.
Right.
And then I didn't do Oxonmoot that year. You did Oxonmoot that year. Right. I did Tolkien 2019 the following year.
Sure.
But before that, we had Texmoot. That was in early 2019.
Yeah.
And then this year, I did Texmoot again back in February.
When I did LA Moot.
Yeah. Right. And then Oxonmoot online and Mythmoot 7. So that would be a total of 6 for me, 4 in person and then 2 online.
Yeah, and the only extra one I had then would have been Oxonmoot 2018.
Would have been Oxonmoot, the live Oxonmoot, yeah.
Which was great, but...
I'm sure. I mean, just as great, well, we'll get into it, but as great as the online one was, I can only imagine that the in-person one is that much better.
It was.
So, what did you think? Attending a moot online instead of in person, what did you think worked well? What were some of the things you felt, man, I really missed that because it just wasn't the same as doing it, in person? What
the social aspects of it still weren't quite the same. I mean, I have to admit, I liked both Mythmoot and Oxonmoot tried. Mythmoot had the chats going on in the Slack channel. They had Google Meets going on all the time where you could go and hang out with people. Oxonmoot had their breakout rooms with the social rooms. They had the traditional dead orcs, which is after the event, everybody gets together and then they get, sent out to these breakout rooms where they do, chats and things.
Is that what that was? I didn't know. I didn't know what that was. And
the dead orcs were the exhausted. We just had 3 days of Oxonmoot, but we can't get enough. And the social events, they did a great job, and I'm not going to ding them for it. I think they worked better than I thought they would, but they're still not the same. There's just something about physically hanging out with people in the same room.
There's no substitute for it. It's
and milling about, and there isn't a substitute for that. But aside from that, I have to say both Mythmoot and Oxonmoot did a really good job of simulating that moot environment where you're always excited for the next thing. You don't really have a lot of downtime. You're moving from one to another. You're excited about all the opportunities. You're learning, you're socializing, you're broadening your horizons. It was great. Both of them were great, really. What about you? What were your big takeaways, the differences between in-person and online? What worked well, and maybe what were some of the things you missed?
I mean, it was pretty much the same. I think one really cool advantage of the online moots is the fact that most of the sessions were recorded. And so you don't have to make that difficult choice of, oh man, there's 2 talks happening at the same time in 2 different rooms.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be able to make both of them. There was less of that. So
there was
either Mythmoot or Oxonmoot. I don't think they recorded everything, but
no, I think they recorded like the main
I think Mythmoot recorded more.
Yeah. I think Mythmoot recorded every talk, just not the social events.
Right. And then Oxonmoot actually recorded some of the social events, but not all of them.
No, they primarily just recorded the webinar channel. Right.
Yeah, right. That's right. So that I really liked, and I thought that was great because I actually have gone back and watched some of the stuff that I missed, and that's been fantastic.
Yeah, I have too for both events.
Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. I really liked Mythmoot's use of Slack, especially.
Yes,
because it was as close to being there in person as possible. If people who are not familiar with Slack as an app, I mean, it's like a text messaging app. I guess there's some audio chat functionality too, but I didn't use that.
You know, it really, in many ways, it felt a lot like Discord.
Yeah, I guess it is a bit like that because you can create different rooms and things like that.
Yeah, different channels. You could have private messages, or you could be chatting in a room. You could do voice messages that were one-on-one.
Right.
It was a pretty sophisticated, tool, and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it from work environments, especially with people all working from home lately.
Yeah, we use it at my work, and so I was familiar with it from that.
Pretty amazing tool.
That really made it as close to being there in person as possible because
I agree.
You could have one-off conversations with friends. You could grab a small group and make a little mini channel.
And you could come back to it because you would come back and the text was still there. And that was the problem with using Zoom as a social platform, which is what Oxonmoot used. The chat moves so quickly, and it's a single stream.
Because it's just one chat stream, and it moves so quickly. And you miss responding to somebody 2 minutes later, it's gone. The chat has moved on to something else.
Oh, totally gone, especially if it's near the end of a talk, because then everybody says applause and et cetera, which is great. But it means the entire chat is just scrolled up and it's gone.
Right.
So with Slack, you had different channels. Yeah.
And with Slack, you can tag people. So
Yep.
There was a lot of, this sounds bad, but it's actually a really good thing. There was a lot of conversation going on during the talks. And so people,
but it was usually focused on
it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was great.
People making great observations and the presenters, at least the ones who were savvy enough to be able to keep up with Slack and do their presentation at the same time, which is hard.
It is hard.
They're able to respond to that. So I loved Slack. I thought Slack was fantastic.
And I think one of the other things I really liked about it was the ability, and they took advantage of this after the event, for all of the presenters to put their PDFs in a single channel. So those of us who wanted to go back and grab those PDFs and download them and view them later could do that. Yeah. I don't think that was an option with any of the stuff that we saw at Oxonmoot. But, both had their strengths and both had their challenges. But you're right. I think Mythmoot's use of Slack was really well done.
But you're absolutely right about the fellowship stuff and just the social stuff. There wasn't any substitute for that.
No, and there really can't be. It's tough.
I did a couple of Google Meets at Mythmoot. I did a couple of the social things at Oxonmoot.
And it was good. It was better than I thought it might be, I have to admit. And if it's all I ever had, I don't think I would have ever complained. If I'd never been to a moot before, I would have been just on the moon. This was so great.
Yeah. But having been there in person and having, you get into those rooms and I know you don't imbibe, but I do. And you have a couple of drinks, you start having fun and, it's just a fun social thing.
Yeah.
And that was lost. Although I will say that at Oxonmoot, I got to give a shout out to the Friends of Mr. Underhill group from Houston, Texas. They had an awesome friendship roundtable, and that was one of the highlights of the event for me. I thought that was so much fun.
Yeah, I was there for that as well. It was phenomenal. I loved it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that brings me to the next question. What was your favorite moment of each of the two moots that you attended this summer? So what was your favorite Mythmoot moment?
That's a hard one.
Of course it is.
The talks were fantastic at Mythmoot. I mean, the talks were fantastic at both of them, but when I think back to Mythmoot, I mean, Verlin Flieger's talk, which I think opened the conference. Yeah, maybe Corey did some introductory remarks, but then Verlin Flieger gave the first talk. And then Tom Shippey's talk on the American fantasy tradition was amazing.
Excellent. Incredibly informative. Yeah.
Amy Sturgis's talk was great. I actually did not catch that one live. I had to go back and listen to it later.
That was a phenomenal talk. I loved that one. Couldn't get enough of it. Yeah.
And Corey's poetry workshops, he did the one on one on Tolkien Eminem. And then the one on Eminem, and I actually missed them live because the other thing with these online moots is you're balancing it with family stuff, and
that is true.
That's kind of the blessing and the curse, really. But I checked out both of his poetry workshops later, and they were fantastic.
Yeah.
Oxonmoot, I already mentioned the friendship session. That was great. The last day was just amazing.
Oh, wow.
Despite the fact that it was the last day. The final keynote by Dr. Yvette, I don't know, is her last name Kizor or Kizor?
Kizor maybe. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I want to get her on the show now. She
really
gave
good. An amazing talk on diversity with some really cool, just some medieval history, some great context. I mean, because look, this was a topic that came up a few times throughout Oxonmoot. And
there were like 3 big events on it.
Yeah, and every time the question of diversity and inclusion was handled from a slightly different angle, and they were all three fantastic.
Oh yeah, they all did. But hers was, I think, the top of the three.
Yeah, and again, I think it just goes back to it was more contextualized. It was more about the history and the tradition that Tolkien's working in.
Yeah, and that's probably why I liked it more, because it was a little bit less about the fandom itself, which is still super relevant. And I think the talks that
it is, and those talks were great.
They were, and I got to give Oxonmoot credit for tackling an incredibly difficult issue at absolutely required time. Kudos to them for doing that and not running away from that topic.
Definitely. But as somebody who's interested ultimately in the texts and less in the studies of the fandom, which
and that's where I'm at too.
Kind of my thing. Yeah, I really liked hers. Enyaliye was great. I've never been there for an in-person Enyaliye, so this is like the final speech by Sean Gunnar. There's a reading.
He always picks a different reading, and they do it at the grave site for J.R.R. and Edith Tolkien there.
And they lay flowers on the grave and everything. And Sean's reading was perfection.
Perfect.
Delivered perfectly. He put I'm not going to spoil it for people. They're going to have to go and look and see what it was. But
I agree.
It was a perfect, lighthearted moment to end a very emotional conference. And I thought that was
if you know Sean, it was a big challenge for him to choose that one.
Yeah, because it involved poetry. That's as much as I'm going to say.
That's all we can say.
And I have to say, although I feel like I've shared a lot of favorite moments, I have to say our team's dominating the pub quiz at both
Total
moots.
Domination. You just took my answer right out of my mouth, by the way. That was my favorite moment from Oxonmoot. Was the 5 of us? Was it 6 of us?
I think there were 6 of us in our team.
I think there were 6 of us that just crushed it. Once we got to the top after like 5 or 6 answers, we never let up. I think we dropped to second for one.
I think we dropped to second place for 1 or 2 questions, and then we were right back up to the top. And that was
can't believe we won.
And now I know some people were playing solo. We were playing as a team.
And playing as a team is what helped us, because you had your knowledge of the plants. There was a section on plants that a lot of people were just griping and moaning about because that wasn't their thing. But I knew when we got to that section, I'm like, Sean's got this, man.
Flora of Middle Earth, thank you.
Right. It was great. We each had different strengths, and we were able to balance a team together. That was just a lot of fun. So that would have been my favorite moment of Oxonmoot. My second favorite moment, though, and I'm going to take that since you gave me 2, would have been doing the poetry reading. I'd never done something like that, except of course on the podcast where I read kind of every week. But doing this in a situation where you've got people watching you right then and there, and you're seeing them on video, it was a little nerve-wracking. And I felt kind of weird about it because so many people were reading their own original poetry, and it was amazing, and it was original, and it was hilarious, or it was insightful, or it was, all these things, and you realize the craft and skill that went into it. And all I'm doing is reading Tolkien's words, and I feel like, what am I doing here? But it was great. People enjoyed it. I love doing it. I'm excited about doing something like that ourselves. That's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I'm sorry I missed that. I had another engagement because I was asked to.
Well, it was a weird time. And that was one of the challenges with Oxonmoot. Is I loved that they were trying to make sure there was something, for everybody around the world. Like no matter what time of day it was, there was always going to be something going on almost. But that also meant that you just couldn't do everything.
Yeah.
There were events that started at 3 a.m. my time. I can't do that.
Right.
I wanted so badly to get up at 5 a.m. for that Dungeons and Dragons workshop, D&D in Denethor.
Yeah, I know. That seemed really cool, but it
was 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And I can't do that.
Yeah.
So that was tough, but.
And it was interesting because there were other things going, like other smiles had their own separate things going on at the same time. Like,
yeah.
Like I actually participated in that other, like it was like a totally different event put on by a Spokane, Washington Smile of the Tolkien Society. I think they're called the AI Tolkien Society. And they had a separate panel thing at the same time that I was able to participate in. And that was super cool. But it was like a totally different track of stuff.
Right.
From what was at Oxonmoot.
Well, it wasn't even part of Oxonmoot. It was just an entirely different thing.
It wasn't part of Oxonmoot. It was just, it was a Tolkien Society group, but it was their own separate thing that, and some of them were doing Oxonmoot stuff, but they had this other separate thing going on too. So it's just, it was an interesting weekend because there was just a lot of stuff going on. I guess it makes sense because it was Hobbit Day weekend.
Right.
So I mentioned what I missed out on that I wish I could have done, which was the poetry reading.
Yeah.
Was there anything you missed out on that you wish you
that
could have
D&D one? I really would have loved to have been a part of that. I've been itching to get back into playing. It's been, a couple decades really since I played with any regularity. Everything else, was great. I mean, being able to attend the talks, being able to attend some of the social rooms, being able to do the breakout events in the meeting rooms. Did this really cool epic style Celtic and Germanic thing.
I saw some of you guys were doing that. That seemed
That was fun because basically he kind of gave us these examples and said, this is the set of format that you follow, and let's take like a mundane thing and write it in this Germanic style like Beowulf, because basically this boat ride home is just the commute home. So write something about your commute home, but write it in this style.
But write it in this epic style.
And it was absolutely hilarious. Did
you do it in like alliteration and stuff too?
All right, so I did one that was in the Celtic style, which is the whole thing about like, why was I think the story led with like, why was this guy killed? Well, because of the cows who, provided the milk, and because of this one guy who couldn't keep his hands off this woman, and it's like gossip. He described it as like two people talking over a garden wall, and so I thought I would try to do something like that. I said, why was the man late for dinner? That's easy. His neighbor blocked the drive with her car. Because he bemoaned about the barking of the dogs. Incessant and irritating, he wrote the HOA. She heard of his hatred and took her revenge by parking her car and leaving it, and him without recourse.
That's brilliant.
And it was so much fun. And then I was like, okay, now I get that style. Let me do the Germanic style. So this was, I decided I'd do something about the show. So I said, the paper was prepared with its points. Quotes were culled, sections studied. Puns prepared, the songs were sung. The episode recorded, rushed and ready. Edit, edit, edit. The file is finished. Sent to the server, ready for release. The season begins.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, we have to get that up on the website for people to read.
Okay, I'll make sure we do. Yeah, I literally just penned those in a 1 hour session, like just trying to figure something out. Like, how do I make it sound this way? It's so much
awesome.
Fun.
That is awesome. Yeah.
It was great. We had a lot of fun doing that. So that might have been my second favorite moment, actually.
That's awesome.
Good stuff.
Well, I know we've been talking about this for a long time, but is there anything that you hope the next in-person moot you attend takes from this whole online? They're all doing a lot of learning and
it's first time for everything.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything you said, wow, this was great about an online moot? I would love to have something like this the next time I do one in person.
I think from Mythmoot, I would take the idea of Slack and let that stick in an in-person setting.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it was such a great tool, and I think it could be really great in person as well. I guess you're going to have to strike a balance because you don't want to bring everybody
people
together
using it during talks.
Right. And you don't want people staring at their phones the whole time when they're there in person for once.
No, you really don't.
For being able to just
to coordinate things.
To coordinate. If you wake up in the morning and you're on your way to, where all the meeting rooms are,
right.
Send a text to your friend, new friends. I mean, I can always send a text to you because I've got your phone number, but I mean,
right. But I don't necessarily have the phone numbers of and I don't necessarily want to give my phone number to all
these new friends. Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, I think Slack is a great thing.
Slack was a good solution. I think they could do that.
I would love to see Oxonmoot incorporate some kind of virtual component in everything they do from now on, because
I agree.
I think I heard a lot of people say, I can't make it to the UK usually.
Either because they can't travel for financial reasons or disabilities or whatever it may be. It's really hard to get to Oxford, if you live someplace other than the UK.
Right.
Time consuming, costly, maybe difficult or even impossible.
Right.
So I hope they do something virtual. Yeah. I hope they continue to have those elements. Anything specific? I hope they do the poetry reading again. That was so neat. I just hope that they, continue to keep it focused and limited. Most people were, I think, limited like 3 minutes apiece. They were very kind to let me go longer. I think it's because the gal moderating it listens to the show. And when she found out I wanted to do one, she was like, can we make sure we give him some extra time?
I guess Alan can do one. Sure.
We know we're not going to be bored during his reading, I think was the logic. So
that's cool.
Well, here's the question that really begs to be asked. Are we crazy for wanting to do one of these things ourselves?
Yeah, I think a little bit.
I think we are.
I think a little bit because it seems like a tremendous amount of work, and I'm glad we're going to have help with it.
Yeah, we are going to have help. We've been talking with our Patreon community coordinator, Katie McKenna, and she is actually going to be our event coordinator as well. So she's going to be running the show quite literally. getting the Prancing Pony Podcast Digital Moot up and running.
Still a lot of stuff to figure out, but
a lot of stuff. We're at the very, very early stages, folks. We don't have anything in writing, don't have anything set in stone. We don't have a theme. We don't have keynote speakers. We just have some vague ideas about what we're going to do.
All we have is a desire and someone who is smart enough to help us figure out how to make it work.
Exactly. Oh, and we have an ideal date range. I think we looked at, I think we may have mentioned last time we were talking about February or March. We decided that was a little too quick. We ended up deciding in May, wasn't it?
Probably more like May of next year, May 2021.
Yeah, I think the weekend after Mother's Day, I think it was.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we'll get you more information on that as it comes.
Of course. Yeah. That's just one more thing we'll be working on this season, but I'm super excited about it, and
I am too.
Maybe a little bit crazy to want to do it, but I think it's going to be so much worth it. Yeah.
Oh, it'll be absolutely worth it. And, we talk about it being a lot of work, and it will be, but I think one of the reasons why Oxonmoot was so much work is they had over 500 attendees.
Yeah.
Mythmoot had over 300 attendees. I don't think we're going to get that many.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
If we have 100 people, I'll be pretty impressed. And I think that might make it a little easier in terms of the number of moderators, the number of stewards, people that are doing the events, and people who are running events. But, we'll know more. We'll get information as it comes. And again, like we mentioned when we first told you about this on episode 179, you're going to want to follow us on Facebook and Twitter to make sure that you get the most accurate and up-to-date information, because by the time we tell you something in a recording, it's at least 3 weeks old. So
very true.
Follow us there. All right. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get back to the rest of episode 181.
I think it's finally time for us to dive back into The Lord of the Rings.
I think so.
Now, this season, we're going to be taking you through Book 3. And if you're new to the Prancing Pony Podcast, we want to clarify, when we say Book 3, we mean Book 3 of the whole book. There are 6 books in The Lord of the Rings. So we are on the first half of the volume you may know as The Two Towers.
That's correct. Book 3 is not The Return of the King, because The Lord of the Rings is not a trilogy.
And we'll be saying that again later in this episode as well.
Even if we might have referred to it as that once or twice.
Once in a while. It happens.
Especially in season 1.
Yeah.
So we are going to take a quick look back at the Fellowship of the Ring as well, to remind ourselves where we've been so far, which sadly we're having to do more often in real life. So, but before we do,
I don't even have anything funny to say about that.
No, I know. It's just like, dang, that's oddly true.
That is, yeah.
But before we do that look back, we wanted to remind you to visit our website, theprancingponypodcast.com, as we have made some pretty significant improvements recently.
We certainly have. Now, we still have all the good stuff there. We've still got show notes, outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, and also our online storefront, where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more,
including our new Feanor Pinata design from PPP artist Megan Collins. Now, one of the best resources we have on our website is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
That's right. We may talk about a lot of different Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, like moots and movies and other things like that. But at heart, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien. That's why we have the library page, with links to every book we've mentioned on the show.
Now, of course, we do make a few pennies from the purchases you make from those links, so thank you for your support.
And there's one more thing you're going to need before you go running across the plains of Rohan hunting orcs.
What's that?
Good socks.
Of course.
So we're going to remind you where to get some good socks. Bombas.
That's right. Bombas makes the most comfortable socks in the history of feet. They've literally rethought every detail of the socks that we wear to make them infinitely more comfortable.
Alan and I have been wearing Bombas socks now for several months. I'm actually wearing my blue ones now.
Right on. Yeah.
Ever since they first supported the show, and I love how amazingly comfortable they are.
Yeah.
The attention to detail, the style, the quality. Folks, did I mention the comfort? I'm
sitting here in
my podcasting booth wearing these socks, and they are so comfortable.
They really are. I'm actually barefoot because it's about 8,000 degrees in my booth, but I would be wearing them if I had to wear socks. They're actually my only running socks now for that exact reason, and I also use them when I ride my bike. But the thing is that Bombas socks do more than just keep our feet cozy and warm. Because for every pair of socks you buy, Bombas donates a pair to someone in need. 34 million pairs and counting through a network of over 3,000 partners.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that impact is more powerful now than ever. Mm-hmm. For those experiencing homelessness, these socks give them the comfort and dignity of putting on clean clothes.
Yeah.
It's a small comfort, but one that's really important, especially right now.
Mm-hmm.
So give a pair when you buy a pair and get 20% off your first purchase at bombas.com/PPP.
That's bombas.com/PPP for 20% off your first purchase. bombas.com/PPP.
Now, we also want to tell you about something really exciting going on next summer that you ought to know about. Solomon Schmidt, author of the History Bites book series, is hosting a spectacular 8-day tour of England and Scotland. It's from the 2nd to the 10th of July, and it's themed around J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and J.K. Rowling.
This is an amazing tour, folks, and if you go on this, you're going to get to visit iconic sites related to the life and works of these English fantasy authors. The Eagle and Child Pub, Platform 9 3/4, Oxford University, and C.S. Lewis's home.
Now, not only will you see those author-related locations, but you'll also see world-famous sites like Big Ben, the Tower Bridge, Buckingham Palace, Edinburgh Castle, and Stonehenge.
And you'll stand atop the majestic cliffs at Old Harry Rocks on the southern coast of England. Not to mention taking a stunning first-class ride on the Jacobite steam train through the beautiful Scottish Highlands.
Oh,
I know. I asked him for a free spot on the tour in exchange for the ads, but the answer is no.
It's understandable.
Yeah, just a bit.
But look, you'll also eat at some of the finest restaurants in the UK, and you'll even spend a night at the beautiful Hotel Miramar in Bournemouth, where Professor Tolkien himself stayed.
Literally did. You know how many times somebody says, "Oh, Tolkien stayed here." No, he didn't. But he actually did stay there.
We know that.
This one. He lived there for a little while. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Solomon has put together this once-in-a-lifetime trip, so don't miss out. Register for the tour today at historybites.com/tour. That's historybites.com/tour.
All right. Well, now we're finally going to get you back into the book.
Yes.
And we always like to do a quick recap for the story so far at the beginning of a season. And I thought this time it might be fun to let Tolkien help us with that recap.
Wouldn't it be nice if we actually had audio of Tolkien doing that? But no, that's not what we're talking about.
It would be fantastic, but we don't have that this time.
No. But we will let him help us because at the beginning of the Two Towers in the 3-volume editions of The Lord of the Rings, there is a synopsis of the first volume on those Roman numeral pages written by the professor himself.
That's right. That is actually written by the professor himself, in case you wondered.
Yeah.
He wrote it in May of...
Because we wondered.
We did wonder. He wrote it in May of 1954 at the suggestion of Rainer Unwin. And you can read a little bit about the back and forth because, of course, being Tolkien, you know he wasn't happy with the first draft he submitted of it.
Ever.
Yeah, never, ever. There's a little back and forth in the year 1954 in Hammond and Skull's chronology. So if you're interested in how it came to be, go check that out.
Definitely. And let's face it, Tolkien wasn't happy with the fact that he had to split the book into 3 volumes in the first place. But that was something his publishers insisted on. Right. I mean, he wanted it all in one, along with the Silmarillion, if I'm not mistaken. Which would have, you need a small truck to carry around this single volume, but that's okay. But his publishers insisted on it being split into 3 volumes because it was so long and would have been prohibitively expensive, sold as a single volume. So they separated into the 3, each sold for the price of a standalone book. And that's how the misconception of The Lord of the Rings as a trilogy got started.
And we are still fighting that today.
Yes, we are.
And the existence of Lord of the Rings media existing as trilogies certainly doesn't help with that.
No.
And the funny thing about it is, it sounds like they didn't even achieve their goal of making the books affordable. Do you remember?
No, they didn't.
Tom Shippey. So he told us this story a couple of years ago when he was on the show. And then he told it again at Mythmoot in August.
But with more detail there, yeah.
With more detail. And this is what's great.
Some helpful comparisons, actually.
Exactly,
yeah.
So Tom Shippey likes to tell the story about how in the old pre-decimal currency of the UK, the books sold for a guinea per volume.
Right.
Per volume. So 3 guineas for the total.
Yeah.
Now, a guinea is 21 shillings.
Okay. Because that makes sense. I mean, I'm really confused. I've never been able to understand that, but then again, I was raised here, so.
I think that's what happens when you establish your currency value in the 1200s. And
that's okay, because everybody else in the world is laughing at us for measuring things in feet and miles.
Exactly,
so
we really
I
have
no leg to stand on here.
It's true. It's true. But so Tom Shippey said this at Mythmoot. He said that a guinea back in those days could buy you about 18 pints of beer.
Oh my
18 pints of beer for 21 shillings.
Wow. Okay, so just about a shilling for a pint, maybe a little less. Okay.
A little less, yeah. I think he said something like 14 pence or something like that.
Wow.
So the entirety of The Lord of the Rings worked out to 54 pints of beer.
Good heavens!
Now, for those of you who are enjoyers of the ale, like I am, think about your favorite, not your favorite expensive pint of beer, but your favorite kind of like go-to pint of beer.
Right. An affordable draft somewhere.
$5, you know? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm doing the math.
You're talking about $250 in modern currency.
Oh my goodness.
And that was Tom Shippey's math too. For the 3 volumes of Lord of the Rings.
It was. Yeah.
$250 for Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
When it first came out in the UK. I mean, if I had been in college, I would have just bought the beer.
Well, yeah. And if I'd been in college, I think I would have just bought the books, because how much is a set of first impressions of The Lord of the Rings worth now? Huh?
Well,
that $250 is really
$250 looking pretty cheap now.
Pretty good. What a deal.
I know it.
Man. Now, when Tolkien did agree to publish it in 3 volumes, the name The Two Towers was not his first choice for the title of this volume. According to Hammond and Skull in The Reader's Companion, quote, Tolkien's first suggestion for a title for the second volume, made in a letter to Rainer Unwin on 8th August 1953, was The Shadow Lengthens.
That's right.
Which sounds like a great radio drama, I might add.
It does, yeah.
The Shadow Lengthens.
I would listen to that.
Oh, you bet.
I would also listen to the film adaptation of it with Alec Baldwin.
Oh, wasn't he Wasn't he
a shadow?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
like the 80s or 90s.
You're right.
I don't think I ever saw that
wow,
movie,
that is a throwback. Yeah.
I'm old, Alan.
Shut up. Everybody knows I'm older than you, so don't you dare say you're old. You're not allowed.
I may not look it, but I'm beginning to feel it.
I want to see mountains again, Gandalf.
So anyway, Tolkien also considered The Ring Goes East, which a lot of people don't know was actually the 3rd drummer of the Beatles after The Ring Goes South.
That's brilliant, Sean. I didn't even see that coming. Because how many times did we go The Ring Goes South and make that joke last season, and I still didn't see that one. It just totally blindsided me. Well played.
You're very welcome, and thank you. So yes, he did consider The Ring Goes East and The Treason of Isengard, which of course ended up becoming the title of Volume 7 of the History of Middle-earth, which covers the development of this part of the story.
That it does. But he did soon settle on The Two Towers, which he said to Rainer Unwin in letter number 140, also dated August 1953, quote, gets as near as possible to finding a title to cover the widely divergent books 3 and 4, and can be left ambiguous. It might refer to Isengard and Barad-dûr, or to Minas Tirith and Barad-dûr, or Isengard and Cirith Ungol.
Now, of course, being Tolkien, he later changed his mind on that.
Of course.
How many times are we going to say that in this episode?
A lot. How many times this season? Far more. Yeah.
I know, right? He wrote to Unwin again a few months later. I think it was 5 months later. And he said, and this is in letter 143, I am not at all happy about the title, The Two Towers. It must, if there is any real reference in it to Volume 2, refer to Orthanc and the Tower of Cirith Ungol. But since there is so much made of the basic opposition of the Dark Tower and Minas Tirith, that seems very misleading. There is, of course, actually no real connecting link between books 3 and 4 when cut off and presented separately as a volume.
Now, apparently Rainer Unwin knew how to placate Professor Tolkien. He managed to talk him into it, saying that the title sounded pleasant and the reader can exercise his imagination.
That's right. And after playing around with different designs for different dust jackets and different sets of towers again.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Tolkien's second sketch for the cover art depicted Minas Morgul and Orthanc. And you can find his ultimate design and some of the earlier designs in Hammond and Skull's J.R.R. Tolkien, Artist and Illustrator.
Now, that means that the two towers are ultimately Minas Morgul and Orthanc. Even though in Peter Jackson's movie, it is suggested that it's Barad-dûr and Orthanc. Now, that's of course because Barad-dûr doesn't actually make an appearance in this volume, and Minas Morgul does. And now I feel like I have to make the joke, Tower not appearing in this film.
And of course, Tower not appearing in this film.
Right.
I would add that if you look at the cover art of the paperback edition that we use, you can actually tell that the two towers are Minas Morgul and Orthanc. And, well, I should have said this, the cover art of our paperback edition is actually a simplified version of that design that Tolkien came up with. And you can tell that the two towers are Minas Morgul and Orthanc. The tower on the right is clearly Isengard because of the horns. And the tower on the left has a crescent moon above it. And of course, the moon stands for Minas Ithil.
Right.
Tower of the Moon. And I have to say, so taking us back to when I talked about showing my kids the movies, my 5-year-old daughter actually saw my Two Towers book after watching the movie, and she saw Isengard.
No.
And she said, "Is that Saruman's tower?"
Wow.
And I was like, I love you so much.
That's so
awesome. I'm so proud of you.
Awesome. Yeah.
Hashtag proud daddy.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
So that was super cool. I just had to share that just because.
That is very cool.
It was a special moment.
But we digress. Now, back to that synopsis so that we can recap the Fellowship of the Ring.
I mean, not like you guys don't know the story, but it is worth talking about the themes and the tone.
Agreed. It certainly is. Now, Tolkien's synopsis at the front of this book tells us the first part, the Fellowship of the Ring, told how Gandalf the Grey discovered that the ring possessed by Frodo the Hobbit was in fact the One Ring, ruler of all the rings of power. It recounted the flight of Frodo and his companions from the quiet shire of their home, pursued by the terror of the Black Riders of Mordor.
What an exciting start to
Yeah.
that synopsis. And remember that we started book 1 firmly still in the world of The Hobbit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we talked about this a couple of seasons ago. You know, Tolkien started out just writing the Hobbit sequel. And we did see that that first book was full of all that Arcadia of the Shire. You know,
Yeah.
you got bath songs and sentient foxes and mushrooms and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talked about this previously a couple of times in episode 93 and then again in episode 137.
That's right.
But the new book quickly became more dark and more adult.
Yeah.
Tolkien talked about this in letters number 34 and 35 to the folks at Allen and Unwin. And you really see that in the very beginning of the synopsis, that it starts out just, you know, Hobbit, 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 and, Black Riders. What are these things? You know?
Exactly. Hobbit, ring, ruler of all the rings, running away.
Yeah.
Black Riders, yeah. Now, very early on, we saw that deeper and older world of the Silmarillion starting to intrude upon the story, and it wasn't with the sentient fox. In chapter 2 of book 1, The Shadow of the Past, with Gandalf telling the story of the ring, we hear about Sauron, Gil-galad and Elendil, Smeagol and Deagol, and other textual runes like that brooch Tom Bombadil talks about, the Barrow-wights, and then Mary's dreamlike memory of the men of Carn Dûm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting that Tolkien doesn't talk about, like, the Barrow-wights, and he doesn't talk about the Old Forest or Tom Bombadil in the synopsis.
Setting the stage for every future adaptation.
Pretty much. He's the first, but certainly not the last to skip over those. And he goes straight to this bit. With the aid of Aragorn, the Ranger of Eriador, they came through desperate perils to the house of Elrond in Rivendell.
And there you go. He basically covered all of book 1 in a single sentence, kind of like Otrapada. Yeah.
He did. Yep. He did.
Boom. Yeah.
He thinks the professor taught synopsize too much.
Talk about boiling it down. I mean, this is like really boiled down. Yeah.
But I mean, I guess he's trying to capture the whole story in a page and a half. I guess I get it.
Yeah.
But going back to our discussion of the story, remember that when Aragorn appeared, we really started to see those textual ruins come faster. You know, we saw literal ruins of what used to be the North Kingdom. We saw all that Eald Enta Yawerk. And we got those mentions of Beren and Luthien and Eärendil. And Strider says of that tale, the end is not known, which I love because it reminds us that that's the story we're in now. That's the same story.
That Sam will later realize that, hey, we're still in that story, aren't we?
We're in the same tale.
I love that line.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, of course, with Aragorn, that makes sense because he is, in a way, the past history of Middle-earth in living human form. He is one of the Dunedain. Right. So, yeah, I can't wait to get into more of this stuff.
Absolutely. And I just, again, it was one of those things where we saw this larger world just starting to intrude upon what used to be the world of The Hobbit and become so much more.
Much, much more.
And we're going to see a lot of those same themes that we saw in that first book show up here. But why don't we talk about some of the ones that we saw from the very beginning there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, early on, we ran into fate and free will, this idea that Bilbo was meant to find the ring and that Frodo, similarly, was meant to have it. And yet at the same time, they each still needed to exercise their free will to do what needed to be done. Bilbo still had to voluntarily pass the ring to Frodo, and Frodo had to voluntarily leave the Shire with it.
Yeah. I have a really interesting thought on fate and free will in book 3 that we'll talk about a little bit later.
Oh, I think we're gonna see a lot of fate and free will in this.
We totally are. We totally are. Yeah. Another one of our favorite themes that we see a lot of is hope and despair.
Oh yeah.
I think my favorite hope and despair moment
I know where you're
from
going.
book 1 was Fog on the Barrow Downs.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, remember when Frodo is just like lying there in the tomb and he's seriously thinking about abandoning his friends to die.
He's tempted big time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he ultimately rises above it. He lives up to that expectation or that sort of opinion of him that Bilbo and Gandalf thought he was the best hobbit in the Shire.
Absolutely.
And he proves it there because he overcomes that despair.
He does. I remember that. That's one of my favorite moments. I wrote a pondering on that, I think, talking about, the bravery of Frodo in that moment. And, film adaptations, obviously having to skip that whole segment because of Tom Bombadil and the relative impossibility of figuring that out. But yeah, we missed that. We don't see this super brave Frodo in the films because of that. And here it sets the stage early for overcoming despair. Yeah,
it does. And you know what, you're saying that, and I'm thinking of another change that was made in book 1 to the films, which is Frodo's moment of defiance at the ford.
At the river. Right? Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. It became Arwen's moment, which is fine for Arwen. I've got no problem with that. But we lose the strength of Frodo.
Absolutely. And, I was watching the movies again and I was like, this works pretty well. I actually do like it in the movie, but we do lose something in terms of Frodo's development. And
Frodo's courage, man. When we see it in the Barrows and we see it again there at the ford come on down to Ford of Bruinen. It is just astounding. And it reminds us.
Ford Asphaleth. It's only available in white.
That's right. And it doesn't have a horn, but it has bells.
It's 1 horsepower.
That's right. We'll be reaching speeds of 3. All right. We also saw a lot of our themes from Beowulf, Monsters and the Critics, which we'll just call Beowulf going forward, and on fairy stories. We saw from Beowulf the Shire as the little circle of light surrounded by darkness. We saw that with Frodo and the hobbits, sort of like that Germanic hero leaving the circle of light to go and confront the monsters out in the dangerous darkness.
Yeah. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a little bit of that.
A little bit too. A little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit of Germanic stuff in here.
Just a wee bit of Germanic, yeah.
We don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
No. Except we do that all the time. We did that in season 1, yeah.
We do, all the time.
Yeah.
We also had a lot of reminders of on fairy stories, like you said. I mean, there were a lot of mini eucatastrophes. You've got Gildor and the elves showing up right at the right time.
The timing there was perfect, right?
Tom Bombadil, the walking eucatastrophe or prancing eucatastrophe that he is. The eucatastrophe of Bilbo finding the ring in the first place. Remember we talked about that with the Shadow of the Past.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, Bilbo was meant to find the ring, and the fact that he did was Iluvatar's hand entering into the story.
No doubt about it.
Speaking of the ring, we saw a lot of the ring at work in the previous 2 books, mostly on Frodo in book 1. But, I mean, we had that moment of temptation for Aragorn at the Prancing Pony.
And I remember we had a little bit of disagreement on that, whether he was tempted then or had faced the temptation previously. But either way, it's still the ring at work.
It's kind of a tomato thing, really. I mean, it's...
As are most of our disagreements, I suspect.
We never have a knockdown drag out.
No, I'm looking forward to one. I'm looking forward to one.
Someday. We'll see.
Well, hopefully.
Maybe I'll stake out the unpopular Saruman was wronged position.
There you go. Saruman was just a misunderstood anti-hero like Feanor.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm not going to do that, folks. Sorry.
Now, of course, another theme that we saw, it was in the title of the volume, after all, a lot of fellowship.
Yeah. Even though they weren't actually called the Fellowship, we saw a lot of fellowship.
We saw a lot of the company, but we saw a lot of fellowship.
That's right.
Except they weren't even the company yet, because book 1, it was just
That's true. Hobbits. Book 1, they weren't even the company. You're right.
No.
And then at the end of book 1, the Black Riders attacked, and we had to rush to Rivendell.
That we did. And I'll pick up Tolkien's words in the synopsis right there. There was held the great council of Elrond, at which it was decided to attempt the destruction of the ring, and Frodo was appointed the ring-bearer. The companions of the ring were then chosen, who were to aid him in his quest, to come, if he could, to the mountain of fire in Mordor, the land of the enemy himself, where alone the ring could be unmade.
Yeah, provided for you just in case you bought this volume and started reading it before you read the other one. Which I shouldn't laugh about because we've talked to people and that has actually happened before.
Well, yeah, when we were talking with James Tauber, didn't he start by reading the appendices?
I think he started by reading the appendices, yeah.
It happens, yeah.
Yep. But that sentence of the synopsis makes it really clear that that darker tone continues throughout book 2. And we saw that. We saw a lot less of that simple hobbitry. We saw a lot less of that whimsy. There were no sentient foxes, no bath songs.
No, but there still was some of it. It never goes away completely. And that was totally intentional on Tolkien's part. In 1947, Tolkien wrote a letter to Stanley Unwin, which was a response to some comments on book 1 from Rayner, who said that the story was brilliant. So remember, this is a letter to Stanley, and it's about Rayner's review. So Rayner had said the story was brilliant, but also macabre and intensified beyond the conflicts in The Hobbit. Yes. Tolkien responded in letter 109 saying, it is precisely against the darkness of the world that comedy arises.
That's right. So there was always, and I think there always will be that thread of comedy throughout. I think we'll see some of that this book as well. I mean,
Pippin has a purpose, man.
Absolutely. But in book 2, we also saw that grimness and that darkness increase thematically too, didn't we?
Oh, we really did. We really did. And then we got some great and world-changing stuff in there about fate and free will. The difference between fate, which I look on as Iluvatar's will as it is played out and perceived by those actually in Arda, and the free will of people in the world, which is the ability to, as the Silmarillion says of men, shape their life amid the powers and chances of the world beyond the music. Yes. So we saw a lot of that. And we learned that our responsibility, as Gandalf says, is to do what we can with the time that is given us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, also in book 2, we saw a lot more of the ring at work.
Oh, yes, we did.
We talked about this, I think, early in the season, and I think we hit on it a few times throughout. The ring didn't seem to be at work quite as much on Frodo.
No, it didn't, did it?
No, but it was at work on more powerful characters and in some really sinister ways. We saw some of that at the Council of Elrond. We saw that on Galadriel when she went nuclear. And, of course, sadly, we saw it with Boromir just a few episodes ago.
Yes, we did. And also, you could argue this was balanced against Ring at Work. We saw a lot of the Fellowship theme, since, of course, we were introduced to the Fellowship, though name not appearing in this book.
Right.
That joke keeps coming back.
It does. And I think we argued at the beginning of last season that maybe we would see the theme of Fellowship balanced against the theme of the Ring at Work. And I seem to remember us talking about, would the rise of the Fellowship and the fact that Frodo is surrounded by all these friends, would that somehow have anything to do with the ring being less at work on Frodo in book 2? And I think we kind of determined that it really did it? I mean, I think the ring
not in my book, no.
I don't think so. I think it was a fun idea we had early on, but I think as we went through the course of last season, we realized that the ring was just kind of more focused on other targets at different times.
Higher profile targets,
Yeah, Galadriel and Boromir, and I think the ring is just sort of being opportunistic and
looking for anybody who doesn't want to throw it in the fire.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just kind of like trying different angles to see, Galadriel, powerful elf queen, maybe she'll use me. And again, I know I'm talking like...
That's describing a little more sentience, right? I mean,
it's not, and I don't think the ring is quite that sentient, but it does seem to have an attraction to whoever might be able to use it. And and that was principally Galadriel and Boromir, and we will see the effects of that.
It had already tried Aragorn, right? And we knew that there was that temptation early on.
And Gandalf.
That's true, and Gandalf, absolutely. And then after Galadriel, it targets the next best opportunity, which is Boromir.
Yeah.
Well, now with Boromir gone and the ring stuck with Frodo, Sam, and Gollum, we're going to see that the ring now targets Frodo a little more directly. Into book 4. We won't see that this season.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
You have to wonder how the ring reacted to the Balrog.
Oh.
And does the Balrog perceive,
Does the Balrog perceive the ring?
I don't ever think of the Balrog as having really much of its own will anymore either.
No. At this point, it's nearly animalistic. I mean, it's an intelligent predator animal. It's an apex predator.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it has a whole lot of its own agency beyond, like you said, very animalistic tendencies.
Yeah.
I see good guys, let me kill them.
Right. Exactly. And do so in clever ways. I mean, obviously it was very smart to use its whip to pull Gandalf down. It's decidedly, Velociraptor sort of, creativity.
Exactly. And look, I know this thing is an Ainu in origin. So yes,
Sure.
at some point it had some sentience. It had its own will.
Of course.
I'm not saying that it is an animal.
No,
obviously we know what it is, but I feel like the thousands of years since its fall, I feel like it has sort of lost some of that sentience. It's lost some of that.
It's lost that sentient feeling. Oh, that sentient. Anyway.
Oh man.
Yeah. You're listening to the Prancing Pony podcast when the hosts suddenly break into totally random song.
Totally. And I'm thinking of that scene in Top Gun now too.
Yes. Target-rich environment too, right?
Yeah.
Aragorn, Gandalf, Galadriel, Boromir. The ring is in a target-rich environment, Mav.
Exactly. All right.
So, big fellowship moments too, right? I mean, Frodo and Bilbo. Oh,
yeah.
And the Hall of Fire and all of that, and really in all of Rivendell.
Yeah, there was a lot of great fellowship stuff in Rivendell.
Yeah,
and then even in the early scenes when you see the fellowship together or the company.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of seeing them get to know each other. There's a bit of banter there, a little bit of that kind of like, I don't know, just like kind of trench banter.
Yeah, camaraderie, totally camaraderie. Yeah,
I can imagine Tolkien having taken some inspiration from his time in World War I.
Oh yeah,
to develop those parts.
I mean, I'm thinking of that scene when Aragorn and Boromir forge their way through the snow after they decide to turn back off Caradhras. And, Boromir's being playful with the hobbits. And he's, he clearly wants to be as much a part of this as anybody else. He's not just out for the ring. The movie kind of made him out to be.
Like he was after the ring from the beginning. Yeah.
Right. And I love those moments where, Boromir is part of the company. But we see that also with Legolas and Gimli, and we see their friendship developing, which is really great.
And we're going to see just so much more of that coming soon.
Oh, a ton more.
We've got Aragorn's role in the party developing from sort of just a guide to really being a leader.
Well, right. He goes from right-hand man to, after Gandalf's fall, to being the leader.
Yeah,
right.
He's goes from the number 2 guy to the number 1 guy for sure.
Yeah.
And just the changes that works in him were really fascinating to see, and we'll continue to see that develop.
Yeah, with a smaller group of people for now.
True. And who can forget the fellowship of Gandalf's loving abuse of Pippin?
Loving abuse. That's about right, though, yeah. Fool of a took, throw yourself in next time and rid us of your stupidity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know now if that's a book quote or a movie quote. I'm sorry.
I think it's a movie quote, but that's all right.
It is, but it fits with the spirit of the scene, and we know it.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on with the synopsis here.
Yes.
The companions journeyed in secret far from Rivendell in the north, until baffled in their attempt to cross the high pass of Caradhras in winter, they were led by Gandalf through the hidden gate and entered the vast mines of Moria, seeking a way beneath the mountains. There Gandalf, in battle with a dreadful spirit of the underworld, fell into a dark abyss.
And of course, with that death of Gandalf, we get the death and immortality theme, as well as the hope and despair moments in that section of the book. And we get a lot of that after Gandalf's death. And that is when the story took its darkest turn yet, really.
Yeah. Yet being the operative word, obviously.
True.
It's going to get darker. But yeah, I mean, that was the first time that one of our really good guys died. I mean, really good. If you go back to like The Hobbit, you get Thorin's death in that book. But,
sure.
And I'm not saying that wasn't a tragic and a deeply moving event.
But it was a death in battle, and it was at the end of,
exactly.
Yeah,
but he had that villain turn for a while. And while you never totally saw Thorin as a villain, still he had that phase where he was being really mean to Bilbo, and there was that, all that stuff. And so it just, Thorin kind of lost some purity over the course of that.
Ah, yes. But
Gandalf remained pure, and I think that's why his death has even more of an impact than Thorin's death, which is admittedly incredibly impactful.
Oh, of course it is, but it's at the end of the story, and you almost expect something like that at the end of a story.
That's a good point. A battle scene.
Gandalf's right in the middle of the things.
Climactic scene at the end of a story. You expect somebody to die.
Nobody expects Gandalf to be gone halfway through, a little over halfway through the first book.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen, but it's exactly what happens. And it had to happen. We talked about the spibimi that came from that. And for those of you new to the show, spibimi is an acronym, SPBMI, and it stands for Shall Prove But Mine Instrument. Go back to season 1, episode, 5 or 6 for that when we talked about the Ainur. We talked about the Ainulindale.
Talked about the Ainulindale. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the idea that anything bad can turn to good because that's the world we're in. Iluvatar does that.
Right. That Iluvatar turns things to good. That's how he works it. Right.
Yeah.
So we talked about the spibimi that came from Gandalf's death with how everything would have gone differently had Gandalf remained with the party. And I know we talked about that in a couple of different ways, didn't we?
Yeah, I think back in episode 171, we just kind of had like an offhand discussion about like how differently the company might have split in the boats or something like that.
Yeah,
but I think
it was a real surfacey talk.
Yeah, but I think we got more serious about it in episode 177.
Yeah.
Right towards the end of the season, because we had a question about Aragorn's idea of how to split up the group. And he was thinking some of us will go to Minas Tirith, some of us will go to Mordor.
Yeah.
And we talked about the fact that would have been completely different if Gandalf had still been with the party. And
totally different, yeah.
And it might not have actually worked.
No.
if Gandalf had been with the party. So
no, it might not have been. Yeah. And you wonder, had Gandalf been with the party, would Boromir even have fallen?
Yeah.
You have to wonder, would Gandalf have been able to pick up on that? And if he had, would Frodo then have left on his own with Sam, on his own period, and then Sam having caught him? No, you would have had a group of people going with Frodo. You would have had Frodo, Sam, Gandalf, and quite possibly Legolas, let's say, or maybe Gimli. But you would have Aragorn going with Boromir, Merry, and Pippin to Minas Tirith.
It's a totally different dynamic. And think about, do Merry and Pippin end up going to Rohan?
Right.
Last thing anybody in the company knew, they weren't sure if Rohan was even still loyal to Gondor.
Yeah, could they trust them?
Merry and Pippin certainly don't end up going to Fangorn.
No.
And every wonderful thing that happens out of that.
Oh, man, and all the things that come from that. Yeah. Because unless that happens, wow. All the things that changes alone.
Yeah.
And that's where you start to see all of these things come together and you realize just how important it was for the story for Gandalf to have died.
For Gandalf to die. Yeah.
And yet, I'm so looking forward to the return.
Yeah.
Spoilers, right?
I think everybody knows, but it's a fantastic moment.
I'm already working on the Gandalf 2.0 sidebar, even though that is ages away. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll probably end up spending an hour on it.
I'm sure we will. It's one of my favorite little things to dive into is, who Gandalf is and who he became. But so anyway, this Gandalf the Grey, Gandalf 1.0, he did die. And the synopsis that Tolkien writes picks up there. But Aragorn, now revealed as the hidden heir of the ancient kings of the West, led the company on from the east gate of Moria, through the elvish land of Lorien, and down the great river Anduin, until they came to the falls of Rauros.
Yeah. And I think we did talk about this, how important it is that the Fellowship comes to Lothlorien right after Gandalf's death. It is exactly the right time when they need that recovery and escape and consolation that they get there. And it's almost like, they're really cleansing their souls of their grief, and they're getting some much needed counsel. I think Aragorn is getting, some confidence maybe.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what they get when they go to Lothlorien, and then they leave and they grieve again, of course. But anyway,
that they do. Yeah.
But there's just so much there on hope and despair and death and immortality. I'm remembering Galadriel's Laments for Valinor. We had so much fun going into those poems.
Yeah, we did.
Just the memories and the utter elvishness of those stories, those remembrances, those sad, longing remembrances. And
absolutely.
I almost want to go back and listen to those episodes again, which maybe I'll do.
Those were really fun ones to. I think that might be an option. There's also a lot of the Beowulf themes in there, right? This idea that Lorien is a circle of light. And then we get that really Germanic idea about them fighting the long defeat.
Yes, Galadriel and Celeborn, the long defeat.
Yeah. Thousands of years. And then lots of on-fairy stories there as well. You talked about getting their souls cleansed from grief. Really, Lorien being a literal place of fairy in Middle-earth, we see a lot of recovery and not even a small amount of escape, to be honest. So there's very much the on-fairy stories themes as well.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, back to the synopsis, and we will close out this book. When it became clear that the ring-bearer was resolved to continue his hopeless journey to the land of the enemy, Boromir attempted to seize the ring by force. The first part ended with the fall of Boromir to the lure of the ring, with the escape and disappearance of Frodo and his servant Samwise, and the scattering of the remainder of the Fellowship by a sudden attack of orc soldiers, some in the service of the Dark Lord of Mordor, some of the traitor Saruman of Isengard. The quest of the ring-bearer seemed already overtaken by disaster. And at the risk of stepping on my co-host's line, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. I mean, we've got the ring at work, obviously, on Boromir in the biggest, most obvious way.
Yeah, totally.
And of course, we saw that at length in one of the episodes towards the end of the last season.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to next episode when we talk about the aftermath of that, right?
Oh, so am I.
We'll see that spell just become lifted from him, and it's a beautiful moment, and of course it's a profoundly sad moment because it is too late.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
And we saw some hope and despair on Aragorn's part right at the very end as the Fellowship is scattering. Aragorn was freaking out. I mean, he was. Yeah, it's like...
And we'll see that again at the very beginning of this book. Yeah.
That's true. He starts very much freaking out. And it takes him a little while. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much, but it does kind of take him the course of that chapter to kind of like get his bearings back and figure out, okay, here's what we're going to do. Yeah.
Once he does, though, it's great. And we'll comment on that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One little thing, though, about that synopsis, there's an interesting comment from Hammond and Skull in A Reader's Companion about that bit. They point out the reference that Tolkien makes to the attack, the sudden attack of orc soldiers, some in Mordor's service, some in Isengard's.
Right.
It's actually a retcon. They point out that no attack is mentioned in the Fellowship of the Ring, and the fact that it was a joint operation by the orcs is not explicitly stated in the text proper. And they're absolutely right.
So there was a little spoiler in there if you read the synopsis as a first-time reader.
Total spoiler. Like even somebody who'd read the second book is getting a spoiler. What do you mean that was,
right?
Right. Yeah. Great stuff, though.
All right. Well, so that was our recap of the Fellowship of the Ring.
And now we look forward. Yes.
Yes. Let's look ahead to book 3, the first half of the Two Towers, which, again, is where we're going to spend this season. Folks, we're going to see the tone continue to shift. As we were joking a little while ago, the entire story is about to get a whole lot more Beowulfish.
Yes.
And a whole lot less fairy-ish. I mean, you've got, first of all, we're going to hit the ground running with Boromir's heroic death, of course. We've been talking about that already this episode. Yeah. We can't wait to talk about it next episode.
Boromir can wait, though.
Boromir can wait. Yeah. He'll be fine.
He would prefer to wait.
Oh,
Joe, you don't have to get on to my death.
You're talking about my joke from earlier, but yeah,
exactly. That too. Yeah, they both work.
It's like, no, put it off, guys. Put it off.
Yeah, I don't need to die yet.
But man, it's such a great moment, and I know both of us have been looking forward to this for like 4 years. So, it's going to be a great moment.
Yes, it will.
The appearance of the Riders of Rohan is about to turn the Beowulfishness of the story up to 11.
It goes to 11.
It goes to 11. I mean, we don't even see any elves really in this book at all, except for Legolas. And no, not even at Helm's Deep.
No, you're right. Because there's no Rivendell or Lorien to pass through.
Right.
And yet, there is a very fairy place, Fangorn Forest.
Yeah, there is. And I think that'll be a fun discussion to get into.
It will.
When we spend whatever ungodly number of episodes.
5 episodes, I believe, on just the Treebeard chapter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And mostly that's just so that we can get through the Treebeard dialogue because it's going to take so long.
Us reading the dialogue.
Yeah, exactly.
Takes some time. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Which we don't have now, so let's move on.
Yes, let's move on. But I think that's going to be an interesting take on fairy because Ents are similar to elves in some ways, but they're also going to be very different.
Exactly. Radically different in some ways.
Yeah, they have that memory. They have that, I'm going to say they're rooted in nature.
Oh, dang, Thank man. You. That's just, don't.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
I know. Arthur's out there listening to this and thinking to himself, that was a really bad pun.
He's clapping right now for that one.
You think? I think even he might be groaning at that one. I don't know.
But you're right about Ents and Elves. They've got those long memories. They're practically serially longeval. They live so long if they're not, destroyed by fire or axes or whatever. And of course, remember, the elves woke them up too. So their speech is very elf-like in that sense.
Yes,
and the way they view things would be elf-like as well.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And they have some elvish songs, don't they? We talked about that last episode.
Yeah.
So
we'll sing one of them. Well, we won't sing it, but we'll see it and discuss it this season. Yes.
Yeah, but I wonder if we might see that they're a little bit more wood elvish than high elvish. Clearly the songs, they're full of like Quenya words. So in that sense, there's definitely a high elven connection. But when I think about the way the wood elves are described in The Hobbit, more dangerous, less wise, there's a bit of that in the Ents, isn't there?
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, well, certainly in the Huorns, but even in the Ents, you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
And then, of course, if we're looking at two of our other favorite themes, on fairy stories versus Beowulf, there's some serious on fairy stories content in some eucatastrophes coming up.
Yeah.
Merry and Pippin coming to Fangorn, which we just talked about, that wouldn't have happened had Gandalf survived. But then had Gandalf survived, we also wouldn't get this other eucatastrophe of him coming back from the dead.
And not just his return from death, but then all the things he does. He goes on to work little eucatastrophes like coming to Edoras and healing Theoden.
Oh, huge eucatastrophe for Theoden. And then Pippin finding the Palantir is an interesting moment. I'm not quite going to say it's a eucatastrophe, but it certainly lies somewhere on that eucatastrophe Spibimi spectrum, right?
I mean, I think so. I think we'll get there when we get there, but I feel like that is...
Which is near the end of the season, but yes.
I know. But I think we'll see that kind of leads Sauron to jump into action.
It absolutely does. The Palantir, the Palantiri make people jump to false conclusions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Denethor is a key example of this. All he sees is the doom of Minas Tirith. He can think of nothing else. And so for him, the only way out is to take his own life. And interestingly, Sauron falls into the same trap.
It's true.
He ends up jumping to a wrong conclusion because of something he sees in a Palantir.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is maybe a eucatastrophe. It's definitely a bit of Spibimi. So
certainly Spibimi at the very least.
I think that'll be fun to discuss.
I agree.
We're going to get Fate and Free Will a lot, including with some great new characters that are some of my favorites, and I think a lot of people's favorites. I mean, Treebeard and the Ents, of course. I mean, we see that they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they are fated to be the instrument of justice against Saruman.
Oh yeah.
But even though it's fated that they're going to do this, they still have to make the choice to do it. It's just like you were saying earlier with Bilbo and Frodo.
Yeah, though they just take days to make the choice instead of Frodo's like, I'll take the ring. Take him like 30 seconds of people yelling at each other. I'll do it.
Can you imagine if the Council of Elrond
was with
Ents at it? Yeah. I mean,
can you imagine Corey Olsen's Exploring the Lord of the Rings if the Council of Elrond had Ents at it? That alone would be a generational chapter.
Oh man, that would be fun.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
That would be wonderful. I'm kind of sad that we don't have that.
I know, that'd be great. Fate and Free Will, Theoden too. Oh man, one of my favorite moments in the book is his healing, and we're going to get a chance to get into that before too long.
Yeah. I even wonder if maybe Aragorn might present us with an interesting study in Fate and Free Will.
Oh, I think so, yeah. Especially just this first chapter, yeah.
This first chapter, for sure, he struggles a lot with his choices, and he doubts himself, which I get that that's not really directly related to Fate and Free Will, but I think there might be some nuggets in there that'll be fun to tease out. So
sure.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of chapters before Gandalf returns, and then obviously then his confidence fully comes back. But yeah, it's going to be great.
It really will. And that sort of brings us around to hope and despair, doesn't it? We've gone through all of our other themes. There's going to be a lot of that theme throughout. This is a big one. And starting just with the first chapter with the departure of Boromir, it's going to be a great discussion. We're going to see both hope and despair, not only in the choices of Boromir, but of Aragorn as well. And as we've joked around on the show a number of times, Aragorn always needs to remember to keep some Estel, to keep himself.
Yes, of course.
I need to remember to hold on to some of myself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I feel like hope and despair is just a classic thread that goes througght the whole book.
Yeah.
And and when I say whole book, obviously I mean book 3. We got Merry and Pippin and Fangorn. Mm-hmm. We've got all the stuff in Edoras with the King of the Golden Hall and Theoden's healing. I mean, right down to the Palantir. I mean, the entire story has a lot of hope and despair in it, but it's going to come to the forefront here really quickly.
Yeah, it's going to be a big, big theme for book 3. I mean, what's a better hope and despair story than Helm's Deep? That chapter has it all.
You're not lying. Yeah, you're right.
You've got maintaining hope in the face of utter defeat. Thousands upon thousands of Uruk-hai, 10-to-1 odds. 10-to-1, I should say, in terms of the number of foes. It's the Circle of Light from Beowulf, isn't it? Theoden has to make the Beowulf choice in his old age to go out and fight the monsters against all hope. There's no way we're going to win, but we're going to make an end of it. Such an end as is worthy of song. Oh, I'm getting chills just thinking of that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it's wonderful.
And then, of course, the amazing eucatastrophe that we see at the end of that, right?
Yeah,
Such amazing stuff.
Now, there won't be as much ring at work coming in this book.
Well, no, that's fair.
For obvious reasons, because the ring is not appearing in this book.
So ring not appearing in this book.
But we're going to get a little bit, believe it or not.
Sure, of course.
Again, we talked about this with the departure of Boromir. We're going to see Boromir come out of the spell of the ring, so to speak, and that's such a great moment.
Such a poignant moment, yeah.
And, of course, Saruman is very much under the ring's control. Control's too strong of a word.
Yeah,
Saruman is very much under the influence of the ring, under the power of the ring.
The lure of the ring.
There you go. I like that. So we're going to see some of the effects of the ring on him as we get closer, with the road to Isengard and Flotsam and Jetsam and Voice of Saruman.
Mm-hmm. And that confrontation between Saruman and Gandalf is an iconic moment. I'm already having to practice for that, by the way, for reading.
I can't wait to hear your Saruman voice.
I'm still trying to figure out my Saruman voice. I'm almost thinking he's from Jersey and he's got a little bit of sort of an annoying. No, I'm just kidding.
I know what you want, Gandalf.
Oh my God, Gilbert Gottfried as Saruman. That's freaking awesome right there. Gilbert Gottfried.
The rods of the 5 wizards. And the keys to Orthanc.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. No, I'm not going to go that route. We will not be doing that. We will not be doing that. I'm still working on some ideas, but I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I'm not trying to match Christopher Lee because that is impossible.
No, that is not going. No.
I am good. Yes. I am not that good.
Agreed.
Not even close, actually. Let's rephrase that. I am mediocre and I am not that good.
Right.
But, that scene is great. And at some point, somewhere during this season, we're going to get a chance to talk about death and immortality. Like I said, when we do that 17-hour sidebar on Gandalf 2.0.
For sure.
Yeah. And then, of course, finally, we're going to see just a ton of great fellowship moments, starting with the 3 hunters.
Oh, man. That is one of my absolute favorite sequences in the entire story.
Yes, it is.
Those 3 guys just hunting for Merry and Pippin. That was, I remember the first time I read the book, and that was the part where I was like,
I'm hooked.
Yeah, I'm totally hooked. And I was enjoying it before that.
Couldn't stop reading then, though. Couldn't stop reading
exactly,
after that. Right.
Exactly. Could not put it down.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be fantastic. The reunion later on, when they all meet up at Isengard.
Yeah.
And we get the recap in Flotsam and Jetsam.
Such an interesting way to tell the story, but I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of that interlacing that Tom Shippey talks about.
Oh, we're going to talk about interlacing a lot. Aragorn and Gimli's friendship with Éomer. Oh, I mean, I love the Rohirrim in general, but that opening scene with Aragorn developing just a little bit of a bond with Éomer, and then the way it grows over time, as well as Gimli, who started out with conflict with Éomer.
Yeah.
They end up becoming fast friends. It's great.
Yep. It's phenomenal stuff.
Yeah. And I'd even add the bond that we get between Merry and Pippin and Treebeard. I love seeing that. Treebeard sort of takes them under his wing and, first he's going to crush them as little like baby orcs. And then he realizes you're not orcs,
Yeah, he starts to kind of have this almost fatherly attitude towards
very
them.
Fatherly. I agree. Yeah.
And honestly, I think the Ents themselves, just in general, I think there's some interesting stuff about fellowship there because
the Entmoot,
yeah. I mean, we never really get inside an Ent's head in the story, but you do see them from the outside, and there is a very interesting kind of fellowship there. There's definitely a strong sense of identity. There's a strong sense of
very individual identity, right? Each one is so representative of a different type of tree.
Right.
And they're physically incredibly different.
Right. And yet they still have this bond between them and this very close
like-mindedness kinship. And even though they might not see each other for ages, right? Because they're off doing their thing, shepherding the trees. I mean, there aren't very many shepherding conferences, right? They don't get together because they're out with their sheep.
It's a solitary job. It's a
very solitary job.
Doing the herding, yeah.
You're right. And that's what the Ents do. They're herding the trees. And so for them to gather together is a rare event. So they may not have seen each other for years and years and years, but there's a deep fellowship there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the sense that they want to achieve, a unanimity of decision. This isn't going to be 50% plus one. It's not about a plurality deciding to attack Isengard. They all need to decide that.
They all need to decide this. And there's a strong sense of sort of protecting their own and really,
and sort of the decision about how long can we be isolationists.
Yeah.
Which kind of speaks to the idea of fellowship with the rest of the world, but that's a bigger theme. So we'll leave that there.
But it's interesting because we were talking about the Wood Elves just a moment ago, and that was another trait of the Wood Elves is their isolationism. So
very much so. Wow, we're going to see a lot of similarities. That will be good. So is there anything else we're going to see? I think so. This is an old throwback. This takes us all the way back to season 1. The Sins of Melkor as a template for evil in Middle-earth.
Yes.
It's been a while since we talked about this.
It has been a while, yeah.
Yeah, but we are really going to get a chance to talk about that when we explore Saruman's fall later on, right up to the voice of Saruman.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also hoping we'll get some chances to dive into the frame narrative again. I feel like we didn't get too many of those in the last book.
Book 1 we did, but not book 2. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. We might see some of it pop in over the course of book 3.
Well, you mentioned the interlacing. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the interlacing a moment ago, and I don't know if the frame narrative will really be apparent there, but it might be. We might see some little bit of the textual history creep in there.
I think so.
But there's definitely the interlacing is going to be a big thing, and I think we're going to need to get into defining that and talking about that very soon. But
very quickly indeed.
Yeah.
I think we'll need to.
There's a lot of that. So
yeah,
going to be good.
Yes, it will. Well, we talked about the composition of the entire text of The Lord of the Rings when we did our introduction at the beginning of season 3. Now, that was episode 93. Hard to believe we've gone through 88 episodes since then. That really is almost the halfway point of our show. But go listen to that episode again if you want a refresher. Just remember, though, that Tolkien's writing tended to happen in waves or bursts with breaks between them.
That's right. So according to Hammond and Skull, Tolkien had actually finished writing book 2 by the end of 1941 and the beginning of 1942, like the very beginning, January. And he went straight on into writing book 3, completing chapters 1 through 4, up through Treebeard, that is, around the end of January.
Yep.
Now, the next 2 chapters were written at some point before the middle of the summer, but Tolkien still hadn't worked out by that point exactly where the story was going to go next. Hammond and Skull tell us that he actually had 2 outlines of the course of the story foreseen from Fangorn, and there were still some significant gaps in those outlines.
Yeah. Now, he spent some time working through the rest of book 3 over summer and autumn of that year, which, again, according to Hammond and Skull, he seems to have worked on as a whole rather than bringing each part to a developed state before beginning work on the next. And, of course, in typical Tolkien fashion, there were plenty of rewrites along the way. Hammond and Skull say, as he developed the story of Helm's Deep in successive drafts, its fortifications became more elaborate and the account of its defense more complex. He wrote 7 versions of Theoden and Gandalf's conversation about riding to Saruman's fortress, and 4 of Merry's lecture on pipeweed, besides much other preliminary drafting. Apparently satisfied at last, he made a fair copy, but removed most of the material on pipeweed into the preliminary section that became the prologue. Then he rejected much of what he had written and began to draft again, with a different chronology and changes in the route to Isengard.
It's Tolkien, after all.
Of course, yeah.
Now, he also took several drafts to get through the debate with Saruman in chapter 10. And then, finally, coming to one of my favorite chapters, the Palantir, which is the last chapter of this book, he seems to have written himself into another spot where new ideas were kind of being revealed to him, rather than being his own creations. Hammond and Skull say, the appearance of that object, being the Palantir itself, was unexpected, and he did not know immediately how to use it in the story. As he later wrote, and this is from letter number 163 to W.H. Auden, I knew nothing of the Palantiri, though from the moment the Orthanc stone was cast from the window, I recognized it, and knew the meaning of the rhyme of lore that had been running through my mind. 7 stars and 7 stones and 1 white tree.
Wow. Man. But then by December, he'd hit a bit of a brick wall. The Second World War was raging across Europe at that time, and Tolkien honestly seems to have been struggling with what the point of all this work was.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he wrote to Stanley Unwin wondering whether it was of any use, other than private and family amusement, to endeavor to complete the sequel to The Hobbit. I have worked on it at intervals since 1938. All such intervals, in fact, as trebled official work, quadrupled domestic work, and civil defense have left. It is now approaching completion. And that's in letter number 47.
Approaching completion. We know better, Professor, but that's okay. He didn't at the time. He was only about halfway through, but at the time he thought it needed, quote, at least 6 more chapters to be finished, which were already sketched.
Right. But then he stopped working on it. And
Yeah.
And look, as much as I don't really want to psychoanalyze the professor, I have to say, I mean, his letter sounds a little depressed to me. You know, he's just talking about what's the point of any of this? I don't know if there's any use to this. And,
I have so much other work. I can't do this.
Yeah. And all the stuff that's going on. And remember, this is 1942, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, World War II was raging across Europe at the time.
Yes, it was.
His son, Christopher, was in the military.
Serving in the Royal Air Force, yeah.
Tolkien was overworked. He obviously had a million things on his plate. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess I can see it. Just, having lived through some fairly challenging times this year, it's easy to get overwhelmed by everything that's going on sometimes. And I guess I can see a little bit of that. I guess it's, again, I don't want to psychoanalyze the professor because I'm certainly not qualified for it.
I was going to say that too, but yeah.
But it's kind of nice to be reminded that he's human. You know?
Absolutely.
And that he had these moments of doubt and of grief and of stress.
Just a struggle, right? I mean,
yeah.
In a letter that he wrote to his son that's quoted in Hammond and Skull, he describes the work of picking up with Frodo and Sam in book 4. Now, I know this is technically next season, but certainly relevant to this. He described that experience as painful. Actually, I mean, that's a quote. So, he was having trouble facing that part of the story. And to me, it seems like it's, he just had this war experience himself, not 25 years ago. Yeah. And now there's another war going on. He'd barely survived the first one. Many of his friends did not. And now his son is in the service and there's another war going on. It would have been difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine
it had to be difficult.
The things that we're doing in our lives now and the kind of upheaval that COVID has caused us is nothing in comparison to what a world war would be.
Absolutely.
Doing.
Yeah.
And so to think that, of course he's going to be struggling with, why am I even writing this? There's these other important things going on. My son's life is in danger as long as he's serving in the military. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But whatever the reasons are that he stopped in 1942 and he didn't pick up working on the book again until spring of 1944.
Right. And that was the point at which he went back and kind of revised some of the last chapters.
Yeah.
So there you go, folks. The book was mostly written over the course of 1942, then a big break and a little bit of revision in 1944.
That's right. Now, the last thing we want to do in this episode is remind you of some of the secondary sources that we're going to be using this season. All of these books are going to be a great addition to your Tolkien shelf, and we have links available on the official library page on our website. First off, something you're very familiar with since season 3, The Lord of the Rings, A Reader's Companion by Wayne Hammond and Christina Scull. We cannot recommend that work enough.
Absolutely indispensable. Yeah.
Totally indispensable. Yeah. And then if you want to dive deeper, The History of Middle-earth, volumes 7 and 8. Those are The Treason of Isengard and The War of the Ring.
That's right. Now, there's also the J.R.R. Tolkien Reader's Guide by Christina Scull and Wayne Hammond, not to be confused with The Reader's Companion. The Reader's Guide is the 3-volume set that's got an alphabetical sort of encyclopedia of different influences and things in Tolkien's life.
As well as the chronology. Yeah.
Right. The chronology book is fantastic because it actually, it details chronologically, as the name implies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything that we know about what he was doing on a given day, whether it's he wrote this letter to Allen and Unwin, or he drafted this point of the book to...
He walked down to the chemist and bought some aspirin,
right,
you know? I mean, yeah.
He was at a meeting at,
It's like the raw data for a biography, right? I mean, it's not written as a narrative in any way, shape, or form. It's not intended to be.
It's just a compendium of all this information.
Yes,
and
exactly.
It's fantastic.
It's really rich. Tons of stuff there, yeah.
Yeah. Now, of course, speaking of biography, we will be referencing biographies as needed. Of course, Humphrey Carpenter's biography and also the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien, which Carpenter edited, are indispensable resources for us.
Totally.
As well as John Garth's incredible Tolkien and the Great War.
Yeah, absolutely. Another indispensable volume. So far, nearly all of those are truly indispensable, but I'd put Tolkien and the Great War right up there with Carpenter's biography and the Reader's Companion as things that you must have.
Absolutely.
I also happened to recently get a copy of something you've already had a hold of, and that's the J.R.R. Tolkien Encyclopedia, the one that Michael Drought edited.
Yes.
I believe Flieger and Shippey and a couple other names we know were associate editors.
Sort of associate editors, yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's a great starting point for a ton of topics. There's a little inconsistency with the quality of the entries because they had something like 130 contributors. So some are better than others, no doubt about that. But it is a great starting point for every topic under the sun. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Whenever I'm stumped on a topic and I'm not sure where to start, I will always look at that one first.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many. It's a lot like, Hammond and Scull's works, where it's really great at pointing you to other sources to give you the in-depth information you're looking for. Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, of course, we've always got more specialized books as well. You know that I'm going to be digging into some of my favorites, like Ring of Words by Peter Gilliver, Jeremy Marshall, and Edmund Weiner. That's the book written by the lexicographers at the Oxford English Dictionary, and it's all about Tolkien and language. And
if you're a word nerd, that's on your must-have list.
Yeah. Absolutely a must-have. There's Flora of Middle-earth by Walter Judd and Graham Judd. I am not a plant nerd, but man, I have learned so much from that book.
You're becoming one. Yeah, it's a great book, isn't it? I love it.
It is. And of course, Verlin Flieger, Splintered Light, A Question of Time. I think we're going to be delving into A Question of Time quite a bit this season. Splintered Light is a little more Silmarillion-oriented.
Yeah, there's some Lord of the Rings stuff towards the end of that volume, though.
Yeah, there's some Frodo-specific stuff. But A Question of Time, I think we'll be using a lot.
I think so. And then we get Tom Shippey, too, right? The Road to Middle-earth and the Author of the Century. Road to Middle-earth, he has an incredibly long section on interlacing, and we will be referencing that at length, I am sure. And then, of course, many more. He's got a great series of essays called Roots and Branches. The volume is called Roots and Branches. And I'm sure there are essays in there that we will reference, as we have nearly every season.
Absolutely. Just remember that any book we mention will be listed in the show notes for each episode, and will be listed in our library at theprancingponypodcast.com.
And as always, don't forget, there will be spoilers this season.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be looking over the hedge from time to time to see what's going on with Frodo and Sam. Probably doing a few Meanwhile Elsewhere in Middle-earth segments.
Definitely.
But, come on. I think you guys know the story well enough to be okay with that. We're talking about Gandalf coming back from the dead and stuff.
And Boromir dies, doesn't he?
Oops. Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, it's Sean Bean, so nobody's ever surprised by that. But folks, even if you're not familiar enough with the story to be okay with the spoilers, it just has never stopped us before. So you're going to have to get used to it.
Yeah. That's right. It's what we do here.
Yeah. Now, we'll be pulling a question from Barnabas' bag in a moment, but even when that's done, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
That's right. Our fantastic listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. We've got our common room on Facebook, where you're going to find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode. Well, not corrections on every episode, but almost every episode. But also updates from us throughout the week. So just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And I should say more updates than usual now, thanks to Casey.
Yeah.
Now, we also have some really good discussions going on over at Reddit. Great place to have really in-depth conversations. You can find us there at r/PrancingPonyPod.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us and also consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Please do. And if you want exclusive content, postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Sean and me, and episodes without digital ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Now, let's see what message Barliman brought us tonight. Sean?
All right. Well, we've got one from Christopher M. tonight, and Christopher wrote to us to ask, I've always assumed that Tolkien was an amazing philologist, primarily because of how much it affects his written work. However, I don't know if he was viewed as a great philologist by his peers within that field of study. I know he was greatly accredited for his scholarly work, just as he was for his legendarium and other writings. I guess what I am asking is this. Was Tolkien both a one-of-a-kind philologist and author? Or was he a great author who happened to be a philologist? Was he considered equally great in both realms?
Ooh.
Alan, I'm going to let you take this one.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, there we go. Just throw me in the deep end right at the beginning of the season. Look, it's kind of hard to separate those two because, as you point out, his philological work did affect his written work so much. And it's hard for the two of us to know how much he'd be known for his scholarly work if it weren't for his fiction.
True.
Partly because we're not medievalists, and we come at his work primarily as fans of his fiction first. Of course, the other reason is we just don't live in an alternate universe. We can't know how much he'd be known for.
Like if he hadn't done any scholarly work,
how do we speculate about that? But
right.
Michael Drought, speaking in a lecture given to the Mythopoeic Society in 2011, so this was on the 75th anniversary of Tolkien's Beowulf, the Monsters, and the Critics. This lecture, by the way, is published in Mythlore number 30. Drought said that Tolkien's Beowulf essay was, quote, the single most influential article ever written on Beowulf in the poem's 200-year critical history. And the essay was famous and influential long before The Lord of the Rings made J.R.R. Tolkien one of the most read writers in English. So, yeah.
Wow.
Based on Drought's estimation alone, it seems like he was established as a successful philologist and considered to be just as great in that realm as he would later become as an author.
It certainly seems that way. And let's not forget, he also did work on other medieval texts as well. I mean, we know him primarily for his Old English work, but he did work on Middle English. He did some scholarly work on Geoffrey Chaucer. I'm thinking primarily of the Reeves Tale from the Canterbury Tales.
Yeah.
There was actually a book on Tolkien and Chaucer published not long ago. Tolkien's Lost Chaucer by John M. Bowers, which I think we need to add to our library.
We probably do, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, he also worked on a scholarly edition of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. This is the actual scholarly edit of that book that he did with his colleague E.V. Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
That's a completely separate work to the translation that he wrote that Christopher published after his death, which was more of a creative endeavor, you could say. Now, he also did some work editing a medieval manuscript called Ancrena-Wisa.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I might have to break this down a little bit. This is a monastic manual for women anchoresses. An anchoress was a woman who, similar to a monk or a religious hermit, withdraws from secular society to devote her life to God and to her faith and so forth. It was, I think, more of an early form of monasticism in the Christian church. And this particular work is well known to philologists because it's written in an early dialect of Middle English. And it actually shows, it's used by philologists to study some of the changes that happened between Old English and Middle English because it is earlier than some of the other Middle English texts. Now, not to get too word nerdy on you guys.
Oh, come on. Get super word nerdy, yeah.
So the dialect of Middle English that Ancrena-Wisa is written in is actually called, by experts, AB language. A stands for Ancrena, or anchoress. B stands for Bodley, as in the Bodleian Library, because it's from a manuscript called the Bodley Manuscript. And would you like to guess who coined the term AB language?
Oh, no. Of course.
It was our very own J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, of course it was.
So he had many achievements as a philologist.
Absolutely.
Even if he never wrote "In a Hole in the Ground there lived a hobbit."
My goodness. And yet he never thought of himself as a successful academic. There's a letter that he wrote. It's number 306. It's to his son Michael, and it's in 1967 or 1968. He writes, "I have only since I retired learned that I was a successful professor." I love that.
That makes me kind of sad.
I know.
All right.
And he goes on to say, "I had no idea that my lectures had such an effect. And if I had, they might have been better. My friends among Dons," he does put the air quotes around that, so I'm really strongly emphasizing that. "My friends among Dons were chiefly pleased to tell me that I spoke too fast and might have been interesting if I could be heard. True often, due in part to having too much to say in too little time, in larger part to diffidence, which such comments increased." And for those of you who don't know, diffidence, it's like shyness or bashfulness. So he was still uncomfortable, teaching from a lectern. And of course, having people tell him that he's talking too fast would be more interesting if he could
just
be heard.
Made him more
made it
uncomfortable.
Worse. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Should have joined
but he definitely, He should have.
Yeah.
He totally should have. Or started a podcast.
That always helps. I know. I haven't stopped talking in 5 years. Yeah.
I know, right? No, but seriously, we have talked about this before. There's this popular image of Tolkien sitting around writing about hobbits instead of doing his real work.
Yeah, not the case.
The truth is, he was incredibly productive as an academic.
Yeah.
Beyond just the stuff that we've talked about here. I was just mentioning this a moment ago. If you look at the pages of Hammerskjald's chronology, you see all these meetings and lectures and teaching and all this work that he was doing for his day job.
Yeah.
So, was he as great a philologist as he was an author? Well, it seems to me like he was very gifted in both. Mm-hmm. And I would argue, as you said, Alan, and as I think Christopher said in his question, it's kind of impossible to separate the two.
Yeah.
I think one of the primary reasons his fiction is as good as it is because of that inner consistency of reality that he achieves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that comes largely from his work as a philologist.
Yes, it does.
I would say the answer is yes.
Indeed. Absolutely. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Now, please be sure to join us again next week when we finally say goodbye to a valiant, if slightly bro-ish, member of the Fellowship.
Dude, come on.
Dude, let's go. Don't talk about me like that. I'm not dead yet.
Yeah, and I'm going to have some atoning to do for the beating I gave him last season.
Yeah, probably. Now. We're going to have a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But we also want to take a moment to thank our patrons at the Kierdan's contributions here.
That we do.
That's James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, and Brian from the UK. Thank you all so much for your support.
Unbelievable.
For making that list so long.
Thank you. It's truly hard to believe. Now, we also want to thank the team that helps make the show better. Our Barliman, Becca Davis, our research assistant for this episode, Tanya Pleshkova, audio engineer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
This show truly would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates, so thank you all.
Yes.
Now, be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your totally unqualified psychoanalysis of the professor to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
Somebody out there is going to send us a qualified psychoanalysis,
yes,
and I can't wait for that one. Well, folks, Barliman's a lot more reliable these days, thank you, Becca. But we do get a lot of mail, so we will get to you as soon as we can. And your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
Indeed. But as always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time,
farewell, friends.